Take your seat. The human adventure is just beginning.
Hi, this is Scott Knoll from DreamForge, and we're making new friends today. So
Hey.
I'd like to welcome Lynn Barker to the DreamForge channel, and we're going to talk about her novel Futurus Rex and the sequel that she's working on as well. Now, Futurus Rex, what is that? Well, it's a wonderful tale. It involves King Arthur awakening in a future time, and I'm going to read a little summary here from Lynn's website for you, and then we're going to get into discussing it with Lynn. In this dark future, denizens of outposts along primitive trading routes struggle to survive and grow under medieval conditions and the harsh rule of the techno-wizards. The Grand Wizard uses her mutant Garum guards to keep the people in line while her electronic devices and weaponry begin to fail. She covets the vast source of power lying inside the enchantment, a hidden land whose invisible portals are difficult to find and to breach. She has imprisoned the last member of a ruling family with psychokinetic abilities, hoping to force her to open a portal. Aliena is encouraged to lead a band of diverse misfits against the oppressors, but she feels far from qualified. She needs a strong battle commander, and the man who has awakened in the cave from his long slumber is destined to be that person, and that is Arthur, the once and future king. As legend has it, he, along with his faithful knights who rest beside him, will come forth to save the kingdom in its hour of greatest need.
I can tell you so many things of how it came to Dorothy and I, if that would interest.
Absolutely.
In fact, I'm going to read a little bit from the book's preface that explains how we got the story. Let's see. Okay, my dear friend Dorothy G.C. Fontana was always enamored of all things Arthurian. The equality of the round table, the story of a young common boy destined to be king, and the tales of betrayal by the adult Arthur's beloved wife, favorite knight, and overly ambitious nephew Modred. She loved the legend that Arthur would one day return from seeming death when he was most needed. When our friend, artist, writer, and animator Bud Lewis brought us his version of Arthur's return, we were both intrigued and worked together to write a screenplay that was probably before its time in many ways. They didn't know how to do the Yaustis character unless they made him a cartoon. And this was back in the early 80s. So CGI was not what it is today. So after, in 2016, we learned of Bud's death. It's very sad, in 2014. So we decided this story should live in some form. So Dorothy and I crafted the outline for a novel adapted from the screenplay. There we go. Dorothy wrote a portion of the novel. I wrote a section. And after her death in December 2019, I finished the book. As far as I know, this novel contains the last of Dorothy's writing that will be published. In Futurus Rex, Arthur returns as she would have wanted.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
I was just going to say one of the things that I felt I could tell you say this came from originally from a screenplay.
Not originally. Bud Lewis's huge outlines and story background, and a lot of which we didn't use, and his illustrations, which people can see if they go to the Futurus Rex fan page on Facebook. If you scroll down, there's a bunch of Bud's idea of what these characters would look like. Of course, they changed and evolved. But it's interesting artwork, and there's a lot of pictures of Dorothy and I at cons and things like that. So go to the fan page.
Absolutely, we want to put the links to anything like that, in the description of the video. So we'll make sure people have access to that sort of thing. What I wanted to get across with the idea of the cinematic, it struck me as I was reading that the treatment was very cinematic. You can basically picture this as if it were a movie, and you almost feel the action and the framing of a movie in it. So you can almost feel that heritage that it has of coming from trying to be a movie treatment. So that's there for people who like that kind of fiction, that's more cinematic than internal or that sort of thing. We'll love this book.
Well, that's the way Dorothy and I wrote. See, I think one of your things you wondered about was how did I pick up and finish the book? She had written two sections. What we did, we wrote the outline together, and then we would assign each other sections, and then we'd trade and edit each other. That's how we wrote together. And she had written two sections, and I had written a section. And then when she died, I had to finish the book. So it wasn't that hard for me because we wrote very much alike. We both write visually. We don't write long. We write, of course, character development and everything is in there, but we move stories along, whether it's prose or screenplays. So we don't write long tomes. I mean, some people want the description of a rock. Does it have moss on it? Is it pyrite? Is it gold? What is it made out of? No, we don't do that because for one reason, we trust our readership to take our descriptions and put it in their own heads and maybe make their own version. Because I get so mad when somebody describes every little detail of a character and I wasn't seeing them that way when I'm reading it. So I want to give them the basics, and Dorothy and I both did that. That's how we wrote. So that's why nobody but Walt Koenig of Star Trek fame could see sort of where it left off. You know, he could kind of tell what was mine and what was Dorothy's. He was wrong once and right another time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's the only one. Nobody else can tell the difference of where she left off, I picked up. Yeah. So we wrote a lot alike, and that's why it wasn't a big, huge deal for me to take it up.
Okay.
You know.
One of the things I wanted to ask about was, and again, we already mentioned that there's quite a diverse range of characters. One of the strongest is, I'm going to say it wrong every time, Aliena.
That's right. Very good.
Aliena. She emerges as a strong female protagonist. She's the songsayer who becomes the revolutionary leader. But so my question was, how did you and Dorothy develop her character to stand, almost as an equal to Arthur's rather than just as a supporting player? And it very much becomes her story. But then Arthur is still very central to the plot and how things get resolved. So how did you conceive of that relationship, and just how did you, and you might have actually sort of answered it, and you guys need to just keep things moving along, but this cast of characters that you brought together, start there with Aliena and Arthur, but then there's quite a cast of characters. Let's talk about how they all can't come into the picture.
Okay, well, Aliena becoming strong in the story kind of happened organically because I had a slight, not a mushy detailed, but a love triangle between Arthur and a forester, Connory Beige, who's like a Robin Hood. His group steals from the rich and then they keep it. So that's that's the love triangle that's going on. So that brought her more to the forefront. But the story, he's back because he's a battle leader. He can choreograph a battle, a war. Who does what? He can train people who don't know how to pick up a weapon. He can train them. Aliena is a famous songsayer. So just think if we were invaded or attacked, or there was a dictator who was going to kill everybody, it would be, without Arthur, it would be as if Beyonce or Taylor Swift was going to lead a rebellion. She was famous all over her area, at least, for being a great songsayer, bringing up songs from the past, one of which is about the returning king. And she needs a battle leader, somebody like that. So she came up because of that. And to give Arthur some kind of a little bit of a love interest, and also to, have someone local who knows that side of what's going on to join with Arthur and his expertise. So that's why she's more central. All the characters, like there's a bunch of foresters, Arthur's Robin Hood group, and there are a bunch of people from the Enchantment. And those originally were Bud Lewis's creations. And we liked them. We really liked all of them. We didn't want to leave anybody out. So we left them in, and each is different. They have something to do in the story. But yes, there is fuel here for a George R.R. Martin linked tone. But Dorothy and I don't write that way, or didn't. It's hard, since she's gone, it's hard for me to, talk about we didn't write that way. So the story is driven a little bit by these characters. They don't just sit around and do nothing. But yeah, there's a lot of them. That's true. And they'll be back in the sequel. So, and there'll be more about them. So,
and everybody does play their part. And one of my favorite characters, for instance, is Connory Beige, the one name that I can say that I can pronounce, I think, successfully. But is Connory Beige, and the way he is introduced, initially he's leading a town under the auspices of the evil Empress and her henchmen.
Yeah, he's part of the bad guys.
He doesn't particularly want to be there, but it's basically he's just leveraged to be there, and you get to see the feeling of you get to see the feeling of the Nazis controlling the French town would be one way to put it. And he's just trying to do his best to hold things together. And one of the nice things I liked was you introduce Aliena. She's introduced before that, but you basically get to see Aliena in action and what she means to the people and what she means to Connery as well. In that idea that she's introduced in that time where Connory Beige is holding a like a feast sort of thing. And I thought that was handled very nicely.
She comes on to sing. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm trying not to give spoilers on what she was singing or why it gets things in trouble, but that was very nicely done. So yes, it is a short novel, but it does have that depth of character and stuff where you could build quite the world. Now, let's talk about world building for a moment and story elements. But this is post-apocalyptic Britain, and it's a world where technology has become essentially magic in the hands of the techno wizards. So you're
indistinguishable. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and we use that a lot.
So you're kind of in a medieval land where people have access to high technology items that were so well built in their time that many of them are still functioning, including weapons and that sort of thing. And was that a challenge, developing that blend of science fiction and fantasy to work in this world?
Well, Arthur and group have been used in fantasy stories before because, all the controversy on whether was he real or was he fantasy. There's all these different, factions that are strongly believe Arthur was a real person, and others think, no, that's, he's a fantasy character. So you have all that fantasy element and building a world where there's been a huge war long time ago. There are pieces of starships circling the moon, broken circle. So when Arthur, you can imagine Arthur wakes up and it's like kind of like his time. Oh, okay. And then there's all these broken skyscrapers and pieces of, and then he looks up and like, what the hell happened to the moon? What's that? So Merlin has been asleep, but he is aware of what happened. And he explains the war and everything on pages 63 through 65 is his explanation to Arthur about what happened, because in his magic state, he knows what happened. So he will tell Arthur, who's curious as hell, like, I don't know why I'm here, for one thing. What can I do to help these people? And then this is earlier on before he finds out about Karayan, the major wizard. And he tells him about the war and what happened. So that I forgot your question now. That was
that's okay. You're answering it. Is basically how you bring those worlds together and how Arthur.
Yeah, it's
future science.
We have weaponry that it's been so long. There had been techno wizards are really scientists. But of course, they're magic to a bunch of serfs out in the back 40. They're magic. They don't understand that. And because it has not been passed on among the common people, it's been passed the science that built blasters and giant things that can be used against the people if they misbehave, are not in their vernacular. So, there's that's one reason that the Corian wants to get into the enchantment is because they have crystals that are kind of like uranium without killing you. They are incredibly strong. If you hook them up to the right things, they can either build, feed, they can irrigate a field, or destroy what's left of the world.
Well,
so that's what wants to get them. That's why she wants into the enchantment.
Let's back up a step, and that
I know it's a lot to talk about.
Let's back up a step and introduce the idea of the enchantment, because that's essentially like something that you can put against the post-apocalyptic, the destroyed buildings and the futuristic things and starships circling the moon and that sort of thing. And then you have the enchantment as well. So what? Tell us about the enchantment and what that is and how it figures into the story.
The enchantment is basically the land of the Fae, and it's ruled by Titania and Oberon. And in the sequel, they will become the inner and outer worlds of the enchantment, and Arthur's outer kingdom will become friends and be trading in between themselves, as they did long ago. But when humankind destroyed the world, basically, the enchantment rulers closed the doors. They closed their portals, and they don't want anybody to come in from the outer world. So anyway, we're talking about, all right, so there is magic, true magic inside the enchantment. And there's all kinds of interesting things that in the sequel, I am going into the enchantment more. That's one of the notes I got from a million readers, not a million, I wish, but your readers who said, oh, can we go more into the enchantment? I want to know, so we're going in there in the sequel. And there's all kinds of critters and people and different kinds of fairy book things you've read about before, but we put our own twist on them. And Arthur and Aliena are friends with Titania and Oberon in the sequel. So we have two rulers here and rulers there, and they're both they're cooperating until something happens. But the enchantment is basically our version and Bud's version originally of the land of the Fae. So they were cooperative with humans and in the beginning, but when humans went down the tubes and messed up everything, they closed the doors. So Arthur and Aliena are able to get them back open again with cooperation.
Okay, I have so many questions.
I know.
But so let's talk about the post-apocalyptic idea. Is this what's left of humanity, or is humanity out there in the stars somewhere?
We have not addressed that they went anywhere except for the ships, the broken pieces of ships and weaponry that is circling the moon after the war. These were ships that were not interstellar, especially. Oh, okay. We don't mention that we can go to the stars, but who knows? The science may be there, and maybe it can be developed as we go along, as we move the society together with the land of the Fae. And see, but no, we don't establish that mankind was able to go to the stars, but he could go inside our solar system, at least, I guess.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the enchantment in terms of Yaustis, the
Yaustis,
Yaustis, the dragon who is not a dragon.
Doesn't like to be called a dragon.
Oh, it is I thought was a fascinating character, and as I mentioned to you outside of this, I just had a hard time mentally putting a picture of him. Not to say he's not described in the book, just me as a person, as a reader, had a hard time getting this creature and how he fits into the world and interacts into the world. So can you tell us a little bit more about Yaustis?
Yeah, he's a thween, Thween, and he is the shape of a dragon. And he has small feathers instead of scales. He's got feathers, but he's shaped like a dragon. He can talk. He's very intelligent. He has a large kind of rounded head and big expressive eyes that change color with his moods. So you can tell when he's pissed because they're red, So, but anyway, he was one of 3 scouts sent into the outer world when somebody was trying to pick the enchantment locks. So Titania and Oberon send 3 scouts of different types, into the outer world to find out who's trying to break in. And he's one of them because he's very intelligent, level-headed, and he's kind of comic relief sometimes. But he does not like to be called a dragon, although when he needs to, he can breathe fire. But boy, you better not call him a dragon. He doesn't like that. And in the sequel, he's going to have a mate and a son.
Nice.
Yeah. So think of a dragon with feathers, but a rounded head, big eyes, then you got it.
Okay. Right.
Although he hates being no thween likes to be called a dragon.
Okay. One of the things, you have a lot of your fans of the novel who want to learn more about the enchantment. No pressure. My thing is, because I'm more of a sciencey guy, I wanted people to go inside the ruined buildings.
We go into the several museums and things and sit down on what's left of something that was once an amazing statue or something. Yeah, we do go in. Cool. But you want to know more about exactly what building they're in. And,
it's like the idea we're in Britain, so where are we? And this is the ruins of, the underground subways during World War II or something. And it's like just
the hiding places of the rebellion is in a ruined subway system.
Those kinds of things.
That's cinematic as well. So, the descriptions, we want you to know that we're in ruins. There's part of a skyscraper over here, and there's a hole in the ground that used to be stairs, but it's way crumbled now. So, but yeah, you do. I know that's a whole other thing. That's that rock again. Is it pyrite? Does it have moss?
Yes.
But I do more of that in the sequel, which the reason that the book is the length it is because we were following the story that Dorothy and I both wrote that doesn't completely follow the screenplay. It goes off, it's different than that. But we followed that. And by the time she was finished, she had reached a certain point in the book, the storytelling. So I couldn't very well, and it was the length that she wrote. So when I went in to fill in the blanks and finish, I couldn't very well write flowery description. He would say, okay, that part's short, that part's flowery description, what's going on? I had to match the style too. So I didn't, that's why it's the length it is. She had reached a certain point in the story and I had to fill in the blanks. So it had to be shorter than it could have been, I guess. Maybe had she lived longer, we would have read the first draft and then started super fleshing it out. I don't know, maybe a little more, but it wasn't like either one of us to write a tome, the big tome. She has other prose work. And you see in her description, her character bio in the book, we talk about, she has things published by Simon & Schuster, Ballantine, Morrow, and others, but she never wrote long. No.
Well, that's one of the things you had said, that it was your job, you and Dorothy, to keep things moving, because that's what you want the readers to be able to enjoy. And I just wanted to say, from my personal experience, I was reading toward the end of the book when the major battle begins. I was reading it was late at night. I was in bed. I had it on my phone, and I start to get into the battle, and I'm thinking, well, I'm obviously engaged in this, and I'm reading this climactic battle, and then it's like keeps going on, and it's like this climactic battle is just going on forever, and not in a bad way, but just it's I can't go to sleep until I get to the end of the battle.
Oh, good.
So I just kept going and going and going, and without any spoilers, obviously it is a very climactic engagement between these forces, and there is what may be a final confrontation between Arthur and Modred. That it's a fantasy science fiction, so you never know.
But we wanted to have different people. We wanted Merlin to do something in the battle. We have Catch. We haven't even mentioned Catch. Aliena has a younger brother who's a kid. He's 10 years old, and he finds that he has the latent power that hasn't been developed yet to move objects or make them disappear. And Merlin is nurturing him, helping him develop that. Aliena discovers that she has telekinetic power, but it's not fully developed yet, but you can tell it's going to be a doozy when she gets it fully developed. So she uses that telekinetic power for the first time on something big in the battle. So we had to have this guy participate in the battle. What's Arthur doing? And I will tip this off. He doesn't have Excalibur in the cave when he wakes up. He has another, utilitarian sword given. So where's Excalibur? Well, he's going to get it, and he uses it in the battle. So that I don't mind telling, but we tried to use the major characters, including Connory Beige and his foresters, all the critters from the Enchantment, because it's both of them fighting Corian. They're uniting for the first time in centuries. So that's why this one had to do something. The thweens needed to do something. So we have everybody participating in this big battle, and so therefore it goes on. But yeah, I'm glad you like it, because we wanted people to go, well, my God, are they going to kill this wizard lady or what? So yeah, what's going to happen?
Okay. I just wanted to, we're starting to wind down here, but I'm going to give you a chance to talk about all the things anything you want to talk about, and also things, that are upcoming and about the sequel. But before I do that, I just wanted to show people, because we'll show this, but this is my copy, which, you were very gracious to sign for me. So I really, really do appreciate that. And I also wanted to let people know that it is available on Kindle. I had this on my phone. So this made it easy reading late at night.
It's also an audiobook narrated by Stacy Lind, who's wonderful. She was able, these are all the characters, to give each one a different voice. Nobody sounds like anybody else. So that is a good reader, a good reader for your audiobook. So some people have enjoyed that.
And then, as I showed you before we even started recording, this is a photo album that is like 60 years old or something. But this is from when I was like 15 years old.
So it's not 60
when I was collecting collecting Star Trek stuff. And what I wanted to what I had shown you, and I'll show our people here now, is that I actually have a letter from DC Fontana.
Yeah.
And this is back in the day. This was back in the day when you sent someone a mimeograph thing, you apologize for doing that. So she actually says, sorry, this is a form letter, but we get so many letters in the mail, it's impossible to answer them all personally. So imagine an age when somebody apologizes for sending you a form letter. But this was back when the first Star Trek convention was like being planned and was going to happen. It's hard to believe now, but at that time there was nothing you could buy that was related to Star Trek. You couldn't go out and there were a couple models.
Still be Joe Trimble and John wrote the Concordance. That's the Star Trek.
Yeah.
The first thing that was
there were just a few things in that age that you could buy, and you had to be aware of fan groups. You couldn't just go and buy this stuff a lot. So I was really of that age, and it was very sweet to be able to read Futurus Rex and see some of Dorothy's last work, and that you helped bring it to life.
Well, I didn't tell you how I met Dorothy. I wrote Dorothy a letter. I had been in TV news in San Francisco and unhappy with that job. I was a researcher more than I was a news person. So after 3 years, I moved down to LA, and I wanted to learn how to write for television. So I wrote her a letter, and she answered it personally, not a form letter. She wrote something, and then because the Writers Guild was on strike and she had time to read her mail, so it was serendipitous in some way. And she called me on the phone, and hi, this is Dorothy Fontana. I went, what? I couldn't believe she was calling me. And she said, I would like to give you some tips. So meet me at Lucy's El Adobe, which was the big watering hole across from Paramount that they all went to. And we'll have dinner and I'll tell you all about stuff. I went, oh my God. I couldn't believe that she had personally, I give good letter. I write good letters, and it was a good one. So it wasn't a fangirl letter. It was a professional letter, and she liked it. And we killed a bottle of wine and became friends for over 40 years. So that's the story. So letters back then, it could have been, now it could have been anything on anything she would have read, but it was a snail mail letter then. So that was that story. But
Well,
you asked me to tell you a bit about, I'm working on after this, frankly, and everybody, this may lose me some readers, but this political situation has gotten me very involved. And because of that, I have trouble getting my head into my world, into the book. So I'm stalled a little bit on the finishing the sequel, but I will finish it. And that's what I'm doing. But after that, I have an old idea that I've had fully developed, but not written in novel, any form of script or a novel, that's a supernatural character in sort of, if it were film, it would be in a film noir setting. Only I'm write it as a novel, and it's modern. It's very different, and that's what I want to do next. But I will be a participant at Bubonicon, which is Albuquerque's big convention for years, named after the bubonic plague, which we had in the state for a while back in the 60s, I think. And I'm one of the participants in that, along with David Gerald, who Dorothy's old friend too, and George R.R. will drive down from Santa Fe, so he'll be there. And I'm on 3 panels, and I'm judging co-judging the costume competition.
yes,
So that'll be
my wife and I have
come to Albuquerque Marriott Hotel August 22nd through the 24th. Okay.
We won't make it this year, but my wife Jane and I have been to Bubonicon, and we've been down there. And one of our friends from the days when we made computer games is Jane Lynns Copy, and I know you know Jane as well. So we've been to Bubonicon with Jane, and it is a wonderful convention, and we do encourage people to go there. It's just a very nice time with a lot of
very fan friendly,
very fan friendly, very nice people who will share their time with you and talk to you, and just go have a good time. Now, one of the things I see from my notes that we skipped past entirely, but I don't want to leave go. I'm going to see if I can get this in there somewhere. Tell me a little bit about your time then as a screenwriter. And you worked on the 1980s reboot of the Twilight Zone, and you worked on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you worked on Jason of Star Command and Space Academy, both of which I have watched.
Those are my first scripts, yeah.
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit about that time and what you learned as a writer doing those things.
Well, I'll just tell you, I've always been some kind of a writer. The math side of my brain doesn't work. I always got the A's in the composition ends, and always read Forbidden Worlds and Adventures into the Unknown comics when I was a kid. Everybody thought that was a boy thing while I was reading them. So was Dorothy. So things like that. TV, the original Twilight Zone affected me a lot. I even wrote a script for it without the right format, but I wrote a script for an episode when I was 12, I think. So I've always written something. So I was writing TV news, went down to LA and asked Dorothy, and she helped me get my first agent after that meeting with the bottle of wine and the Lucy's Adobe. So I got my first agent, and Jason of Star Command. I can't remember if I wrote Space Academy first or Jason of Star Command. Fans of those would probably know which came first. But I wrote those. I pitched that. I went in. I figured out how to pitch, and I went in and pitched those stories, and they were bought, and that got me started. And then, of course, there's all kinds of shows I pitched, and Close But No Cigar. What happens in Hollywood is you'll pitch a story to the showrunners of that time. Then that showrunner will get fired, and the baby goes out with the bathwater. Anything he's bought from this writer is going to turn into a script for the show, they just throw out when they fire the person. That happened to me twice. I had things all lined up to write. I had sold them, and my boss got fired. So everything went out. That happens a lot. I would have a lot more credits if I could have finished those things on a lot of shows, but that's Hollywood luck. But yeah, did you want to know more about Twilight Zone? Or I had worked.
I'm just happy with what you're saying, because I just want to hear what it was like for you. So just keep going.
Okay, Whiz Kids was one you didn't mention, and that was early the computers with the big barrel backs, and there's a bunch of kids solving crimes using computers when they were the dawn of the computer age, practically, of the home computer age. So I wrote one of those for a fellow named Jim Crocker, and he was the producer on the 80s reboot of the Twilight Zone. So, you bring along people you like to work with, and you bring along to your next show. So he knew I was good. So he had me pitch for Zone. And of course, I watched every one of them as a kid. So and they wanted to keep it pretty much geared toward the original. So I started selling things there, and I sold them something like 5 stories, but I only got to do 3 scripts. So, and one of them didn't get shot, so that's not in my credits, but it was finished. But I worked with him and executive producer Phil DeGuerre in Harlan. Harlan Ellison was a consultant at the time. So when you pass Harlan's writer test, it was, he's in the room, when I'm pitching. So you can imagine. But the thing is, he was a friend of Dorothy's too, and I'd already met him. So, going in there and pitching, I had a couple of comments, and one of them was, I like that. And I went, okay, does that mean I'm sold it or what? Because it's like so many cooks in this thing. Who's got the final word here? But I worked on several with them, and they were shot. And one of them starred Helen Mirren, Dame Helen. I couldn't believe it. Before she was a dame, she was. I got to go on set and talk with her about the character. These were like mini movies. The zones were like mini movies. The writer could go talk to the director, could come on set, sit down with the actors, and say what she'd ask, like, well, I see her this way. How do you see her? So I got that from Helen Mirren. So you can imagine, and she had not done that much then. She'd done Excalibur, the movie. She'd done a bunch of stuff in England, but she wasn't as famous then. So still, though, it was really fun. So I got to do that, and I got to be on set when they're shot. So it was amazing, and that didn't happen in a lot of shows. So the writer was part of that. So then later on, I teamed up with Daniel Keyes Moran, and we pitched stuff to Deep Space Nine. Now, I didn't write, nor did Dan. They bought our story. They didn't let us write the script because one of the producers wanted to write. Yay, Hollywood. Oh. You got to have an ego of iron to get through, Hollywood. Yeah.
How, just out of curiosity, might not even keep this part in the video, but how did they do writing a script from your story? How did they? How do you think they did?
Not bad. Of course, they deviate, but the basic story was there. And I forget who it was. I probably blotted his name out because I was mad that we didn't get to write our script. But yeah, I know who it is. But anyway, he was a good writer, so it was okay. But we could have done it. But but it came out okay. So that was all right.
Okay, and I'm so glad we had time to talk about
movies died, and that I went to the last minute of going to walk to the set, and the money fell through. That's Hollywood. So you have to have it's ulcer time half the time. So
Well, I'm really glad we had time to talk about that. I would have missed. I wouldn't have wanted to miss those stories.
Oh, that's tidbits. I've got a million of them. I do.
Well, Lynn, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I enjoyed Futurus Rex, and I look forward to the sequel.
Yeah, it'll be longer.
and we wish you all the best with your writing and going out there and getting even more cool stories that you can share with your readers and your fans. But tell us again when Bubonicon is, because that's when people can have a chance to go.
It's August 22nd through 24th, and the Marriott Hotel here in Albuquerque. And they've been at the Marriott. This is the 3rd year I've been part of it, and they've been at the Marriott all the time. It's a nice hotel, and you can walk to some shopping while you're there. And, that's where it is. And I'm on like 3 panels and a costume judge. So that's next. But go online and check it out. And we need more reviews on Goodreads and Amazon. So if you really hate it, don't do it. If you want to give it a few criticisms, that's okay. But we need some more reviews. So that would be nice.
Okay, and we extend to you when you do have when the sequel is out there and that sort of thing. Let us know because we'll help.
I will.
We'll
I
help
hope. I
promote
hope by
that
the end of the
on.
year, but who knows?
We'll let everybody know on our social, and we'll even probably edit the video and put a link to the new Amazon sales or whatever. So again, appreciate you being here with us today, and it was wonderful
Enjoyed
meeting
it.
you, and it was wonderful hearing your stories and just the development and it's just always great to share life experiences. So we appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. I enjoyed you too.